the Cold War against the Communists, the United States commissions the Coast Guard cutter Courier as its first seagoing radio transmitter.
The Courier sent news, music, and hope behind the Iron Curtain. Commissioned by President Harry Truman in 1952, this ship was an essential U.S. communications tool during the Cold War. Codenamed Operation Vagabond, the floating relay station was a unique partnership between the Voice of America and the Coast Guard. Richard Haldi was a lieutenant on the ship from 1958 to 1961.
Total mission of the Coast Guard cutter Courier was to be Voice of America in the Middle East and Southern Russian republics so that they could hear from the outside world. The Russians continually tried to jam us, but were unable to on a regular basis, so that the broadcast primarily went through.
As much as the United States wanted to get information behind the Iron Curtain, the Soviets wanted to block those transmissions.
Here's how jamming sounds when it cuts in on a Voice of America broadcast.
Bob Mariott was one of the original crew of the Courier in 1952. He worked in the relay room, which had 3 decks and a list of 3 frequencies for each program.
We had a long list because the Russians jammed it. Believe it or not, we'd get a good clear signal, and then we would hear this jamming, and then it sounded like a coffee grinder, and we'd have to switch to another receiver. We were actually one-on-one with the Russians. We'd never met them, and hopefully, we were hoping we didn't, but we were playing cat and mouse with them every night when we went on the air, when we were on the air. So.
Some special programs will be sent directly from the ship, as is being shown here.
The Courier broadcast programming in 13 languages, 7 days a week, thanks to a 150 kilowatt signal that was 3 times stronger than traditional land-based transmitters. Richard Shannon, known as Red, remembers the electronic field was strong enough to light a neon bulb without plugging it in.
But there was so much radiation at night, we used to signal with semaphore sticks during the day, but at night we could take neon bulbs, long neon bulbs, but this long, and we could hold them with gloves on, and we could send our semaphore this way.
The ship was initially outfitted with barrage balloons with medium-wave antenna attached. But VOA engineer Ivan Bohr designed a new system when those proved problematic.
The antenna wire used to part all the time and end up over in Turkey. So Ivan Bohr came up with what they called a Delta D rig. If you look at the foremast here, it looks like a little clothesline up there. And we ran 3 wires back to the mainmast back aft here, and then 3 wires down to that opening. This was a better system. We had plenty of antenna wire up there, so we could broadcast.
This year marks the 50th anniversary of the end of the Courier's mission in 1964. An exhibit opened in its honor in June at the Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut. Curator Jennifer Gaudio titled the exhibit, "A Voice of Hope and Freedom," inspired by short notes written on toilet or tissue paper, sent from listeners behind the Iron Curtain.
The Voice of America is about broadcasting hope and truth, and the major mission of the Coast Guard is saving lives. It was a unique experiment for both, especially in the rather uncharted waters of the Cold War.
For 12 years, VOA broadcasts were often filled with American music, jazz numbers like this Charlie Parker jam session.
Well, you can do anything but take me over my blue suede shoes.
And the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley, was also relayed around the world. This cultural exchange was meant to inspire hearts and minds behind the Iron Curtain.
It wells the pride up in you that you were a part of a significant unit, even though we never fired a shot. We were a major factor in the Cold War.
The Courier, a ship without guns, goes into battle armed with the greatest weapon of all, truth.
Jennifer Gaudio says the exhibit will travel across the country. She hopes it will shed light on this important but lesser-known communications mission during the Cold War. Daniella Schrier, Voice of America, New London, Connecticut.